Today we're going to take a look at Daniel chapter 7, which is the most popular, one of the most popular chapters in the Bible. It's popular in the churches, on internet websites, everywhere. People like to use this chapter to kind of emphasize or prove the point that they're some kind of prophet themselves by interpreting a few of these symbols. But I'm not going to interpret any of these symbols. I am going to show you how to understand every single chapter and every single book in the Bible based on context. There's a law of the prophets in Jeremiah 23. You can read it. It says, we should ask what a prophet says. If you look up that word what, it also covers what, when, how, and why. So we're basically, of course, Daniel describes what this vision is. He goes back and says earlier during the first year, he explains when he got this vision. He explains how he got this message from God. A prophet always has to explain how he obtained the message, how he was given the message. Daniel got this message in a dream, in a vision. So Daniel followed the laws of the prophets. So if you got a prophet today that doesn't cover the main aspects of the laws of the prophets, just ignore what he says. Get away from him. Okay, now my main purpose in this is I'm going to show you towards the end of this video some details that everybody, it seems everybody missed in this chapter. The first thing I want to do is show you the time sequence, or first of all go over the first 3 verses. You can read them yourself, but basically it explains that Daniel was having a vision, and he saw this great storm turning up, and then these 4 huge beasts came out of the water, each different from the other. Okay, the law of context tells us the first couple of verses cover the theme for the chapter. It's true throughout the Bible. First couple of verses tell you the theme, the main theme. And the main theme we know is going to be these beasts. Okay, what I want to do is get right into this time sequence here, because this is the first thing we see. This grayish blue is all words that relate to time. Green words, movement. These strawberry words, purplish, reddish words, kind of saw something to do with vision. And then these brownish words are with beast. And we can see, that's where people focus. They focus on this beast stuff, and then later on, as we go on down, the beast kind of disappear, but then it's replaced by these horns. And that's the only things that people concentrate on, is either the beast or the horns. We're going to concentrate on the rest of this chapter, see what we can pick up from it. Okay, right here we see, starts off with time. Vision in the night, another time. Then I saw a second beast, then I saw a third beast, then my vision in the night I saw a fourth beast. So when he starts off with the word then, pay attention, it's very important. It shows a particular sequence. The sequence has to follow an order, because this is the order God told the prophet to write it. So we cannot take this out of sequence. This is true for every single prophecy, people. And this is where most prophets go wrong. They'll get into a prophecy that has a sequence, a specific sequence recorded, but then they try to interpret it out of sequence. Okay, understand time? I hope you do. I'm going to go through this rather quickly. We see a bunch of words. It's Daniel saw the visions, and this is what he saw. See, it's repeated, and then it says Daniel saw a great storm. Why would he repeat the word saw 3 times in the first 2 verses? That's because he's telling us in the introduction, this prophecy has to do a lot with vision. You see, as I watch his movement, then I saw a second beast, and it looked, see, Daniel's still looking, and then the beast appeared. Okay, so the beasts are appearing, and it looked, now it's moving more towards the beast. As I was looking, it's still, the horn appeared. See, the emphasis is still on Daniel seeing. But all of a sudden it changes. This little horn had eyes like human eyes and a mouth that was boasting arrogantly. You see how all of a sudden this sight, this fourth beast has the ability to see. So we're talking about prophetic vision. This beast is going to try to trick people by making them think he has prophetic vision. See how the Bible tells us that with these repeated words? Okay, so we go from Daniel seeing the vision to, okay, now all of a sudden we got to watch out because this beast has eyes. So that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. Now, if we look at this movement, Daniel is laying in his bed, and this is really important. I'm going to explain it real quick. He's laying in his bed. So laying in bed usually means you're not doing a whole lot. You're not accomplishing a whole lot. We go down to the summation, the last verse in here. That was the end of the vision. I, Daniel, was terrified by my thoughts, and my face was pale with fear, and I kept these things to myself. You see how this lay in bed? Only God could have done this. It's telling, in this chapter, Daniel is not going to do anything with this prophecy. That should tell us a lot right there. So you come up, but when you look at the beast came up out of the water, and then you look at this movement, and it was left standing on its hind feet, okay, and then it had ribs between its teeth. The second one was rearing up on one side, so it was left standing to kind of rearing up. You see how this movement is increasing? And then the other small horn was among the other horns, and then all of a sudden it changes here. The Ancient of Time sat down to judge. Well, if he sat down, that means the Ancient One was moving around during this time period up here. You get it? And this river of fire was pouring out, flowing from his presence. You see, he's sitting down, but there's this movement that's coming out of the throne, and millions stood to attend them, and the books were open. So we can see, when you look at all this movement, you can start seeing an enormous amount of information that this the Bible is revealing on it. Now, take a look at the movement, and you can highlight these words yourself, and when you start, get a little more time to go into it, you're going to see a million things people never explain. Okay, we're going to take a look at these body parts. In verse 4, it's really interesting because he has 2 hind feet, and he's standing on these 2 hind feet on the ground, and they're like a human being. You see how the beast is going from just looking like a lion with wings, you know, that, ooh, people get amazed. But wait a second here. Now all of a sudden there's this human form that the beast is beginning to take on. And then we see this transformation that all of a sudden it goes from human feet that are just standing to a mouth. See the next one? It's going to devour flesh. So pay attention to the way these things. And now all of a sudden it puts the emphasis on the head. See how it's moving from the feet to the head? What is that going to tell you? Now, when you look into this fourth beast, what are you going to do? You're going to see a little horn that had like human eyes and a mouth. You know, now it's got eyes and a mouth. So you can see when it's moving from body parts, it really takes on, and it shows you a lot of important things are going to be happening during that prophetic period. Now in verse 11 we see another thing, that the fourth beast was killed in his body. In other words, his whole body. See, God wrote this, so he covered all the bases. His whole body was destroyed by fire. Okay, now this is the important part, and I want you to pay attention to this, because we're going to take a look at verses 9 and 10. We're going to see something in here I know no one has never showed you, because most people don't want to talk about this. I watched as thrones were put in place, and the Ancient One sat down to judge. His clothing was white as snow, and his hair was the purest wool, and he sat on a fiery throne with wheels of blazing fire. And a river of fire was pouring out and flowing from his presence. Millions of angels ministered to him. Many millions stood to attend to him. And then the court began its session, and the books were open. See, the Ancient One sat down to judge. So that definitely that tells us the exact time period this is going to take place, at the end of this fourth beast period. And then the court began its session. See, this is the beginning of the judgment in heaven. So we can put this time period in perfect perspective. And then as we go on to verse 22, we see the word judged appears again. And this is until the Ancient One, the Most High, came and judged in favor of the holy. So now we're beginning to see the end of this judgment process. So when we begin to see the end of this judgment process, we go down to verse 26. But then it's these words, all these time words have a specific meaning and puts it in a specific order. But then the court will pass judgment. So now judgment is being passed. Judgment is reached in verse 22, and judgment is passed. So this follows the perfect sequence. So all of these, God gives all these prophecies in order. Now there's another thing I want to kind of get and show you a rule. Basically, you can highlight these words, related words with movement, related words with time, related words with devoured, crushed, trampling, with vision, with eyes, with, watched, Holy One, Most High, Kingdom. I use this blue for kingdom and kings, titles. So, but you can use your own colors, just whatever feels good for you. There's no magic about it. It's once you start working with it, the Spirit is going to reveal things to you that you are not going to believe why people are not teaching these things. You're going to question, how come nobody ever taught me this before? Anyway, let's take a look at verse 8. What we want to do is pay attention to, there's a rule when three words are repeated. And here we see looking. As I was looking at the horn, suddenly another smaller horn appeared among them. Three of the first horns were torn out by the roots to make room for it, and this little horn had eyes like a human eyes. You see, when you see looking, eyes appeared, there's four words here in this sentence, in this verse, that have to do with vision. So that tells us when you see three or more words that are similar, it's really the author's calling attention. It's a really important verse. And if we go down to verse 10, we're going to see the same thing. With pouring out, flowing from his presence, millions of angels, and millions stood to attend them. And then the court, see, this is calling attention. The books were open. It shows movement again. So all of this movement, these related words and movement are telling us something. See, these key words, they're words that are similar, the same, or related. It's actually supposed to be the same, similar, or related words. We're going to go down to verse 11. We see three words here, boastful, and speech. Those are three words related to communication. When I see communication words, that really catches my attention. I continued to watch because I could hear the little horns, boastful speech. I kept watching until the fourth beast was killed and his body was destroyed. You see, this draws attention to really, really important, some of the most important verses. That pattern calls attention to important verses within the chapter. In chapter 19, we see devoured, crushed, and trampling. So this is another important one, another important verse in here. Then I wanted to know the true meaning of the fourth beast, the one so different from the others and so terrifying. It had devoured and crushed its victims with iron teeth and bronze claws, trampling their remains beneath his feet. See, there's other related words too that I didn't highlight that you can. But basically, I just want to kind of get you into looking at these words, highlighting them, I like to pay particular attention to time-related words, and then movement words, and words that have to do with speaking, communication. But I'm sure God's Spirit might be showing you a little bit something different. So, highlight your Bible, get into it and listen to the Spirit and have fun.